The year was 2023. In a big city full of opportunities, Anna felt like her life was finally about to change. After years of hard work at a renowned marketing firm, she was one step away from landing the position of creative director. Her campaigns had made the company millions, and her dedication went beyond the office hours, working late nights, sacrificing weekends, all to prove her worth. But when the announcement of the promotion was made, the name that echoed through the room was not hers. Carla, her colleague and supposed friend, smiled at the applause. In that moment, Anna realized she had been tricked. The project that secured Carla's promotion was hers. Her throat tightened, a mixture of anger and humiliation. But instead of confronting Carla right away, Anna took a deep breath. She knew she needed something bigger. If Carla wanted to steal her future, then Anna would make sure hers would fall apart in a way she would never forget. Carla's betrayal was just the beginning. When Anna got home that night, she found her best friend, Renata, waiting in the living room. With a suspicious look, Renata was holding her cell phone tightly. "I needed to talk to you before it was too late," she said, handing the phone to Anna. Anna's heart raced when she saw the messages from Isabella, Renata's best friend. The girl, who had always been by her side and pretended to support her marriage, was secretly poisoning their relationship, sending messages to Renata's fiancé, insinuating that she was still in love with an ex. And worse, she was sending messages to Renata saying that her fiancé seemed distant, planting doubts. It was a double whammy. Isabella wanted to end her friend's marriage, and she seemed to be succeeding. Renata didn't know what to do, but Anna did. After what happened at work, she began to see a pattern. People cheated, manipulated, lied, but they all made the same mistake. They thought they would never be found out. Anna held Renata's cell phone and smiled for the first time that day. "We don't need to rush to solve this. We just need to wait for the right moment." In the days that followed, Anna began to connect the dots. Carla and Isabella's betrayals were not isolated incidents. When she met Renata to talk about the next step, the two arranged to have coffee at the same place where another friend, Mariana, used to organize her wedding meetings. But something was wrong. Mariana, who had always been passionate about the details of her big day, seemed tense, her eyes glued to an email open on her cell phone. "My mother-in-law changed everything," she said, her voice thick with frustration. The venue, the guests, even the dress that Mariana had chosen with such care, everything was changed without her consent. And the worst part? Her fiancé had agreed to everything. "She turned my wedding into a family event. I'm just an extra at my own party." Anna and Renata looked at each other. It was unbelievable how the game kept repeating itself, but with new pieces. Good people being trampled by those who should have supported them. Anna's blood boiled with each new story. But she kept her cool. Because now he was sure that this went far beyond a personal revenge plan. As they left the cafe, a familiar voice called Anna. It was Lucas, an old friend from college. His worried look gave away that something wasn't right. "I need your help," he said, pulling them aside. He told her about her father's will. Her father, an upright and fair man, would never leave everything to her stepmother Sylvia and disinherit his own children. But that's exactly what happened. The document she presented is full of inconsistencies. "My father would never do that. But if I accuse her without proof, I'll lose everything." The story was different, but the pattern was the same: betrayal, manipulation, and abuse of power. Anna felt her adrenaline rise. What had started as a desire for revenge against Carla was now taking on a much larger shape. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, and she realized that these stories weren't isolated. It was as if the city was overrun by predators in disguise, people who took advantage of others' trust for their own benefit. And if no one was doing anything to stop them, then maybe it was time someone started. Over the next few days, Anna began to put together a plan. But before she could delve deeper, a new scam emerged, this time, much closer than she had expected. Her brother, Daniel, called in the middle of the night, desperate. "The apartment isn't his," he said, his voice thick with disbelief. Anna tried to understand. Daniel had been paying rent for 3 years to a nice man named Mr. Almeida. But now that he had decided to buy a property, he discovered that Mr. Almeida had never been the real owner of the apartment. It had all been a scam. Without a legitimate contract, Daniel not only lost the chance to get his money back, but he was also about to be evicted without any legal right. Anna closed her eyes, trying to control her anger. The pattern was there again, trustworthy people turning out to be real snakes. How many other victims were there? How much longer would these people continue to deceive and get away with it? It was at that moment that the idea finally took hold. It wasn't enough to help one or two people. If she wanted justice, she would have to go all the way. But Anna was not alone. By this point, Renata, Mariana, Lucas, and Daniel were already deeply involved in the web of betrayal that connected them. And as each began to share more details about their problems, the list of victims grew. Camila, a talented baker who had opened a small bakery with her best friend, Juliana, came forward with another outrageous story. Juliana, without warning, opened a second branch of the bakery using the same concept, the same suppliers, the same products, but without Camila. She cut her out of the business without hesitation. She not only stole my work, she took all the customers and pretended I never existed, she said furiously. Anna didn't know what was worse, Juliana's audacity or the coldness with which it was all done. But the truth was clear. The city was infested with traitors, people who took advantage of others' trust for their own benefit. The group was growing, and with it, the need for a bigger plan. Anna knew that it was not enough to face one problem at a time. They needed to act together. That's when Raphael entered the equation. He was an acquaintance of Lucas's, and upon hearing about what was happening, he decided to share his own story. He had always been an exemplary employee at his company, someone who never made a mistake. But suddenly, he saw his career fall apart when Felipe, a jealous colleague, set him up to incriminate him in a financial mistake he didn't make. Now, he was under internal investigation, with his reputation at stake. I know it was him. But proving it is another story, Raphael said, his eyes heavy with frustration. Anna took a deep breath. Each story she heard was more revolting than the last. At this point, this was no longer a series of isolated misadventures. It was a system. A web of manipulation that left a trail of destruction in its wake. But Anna had something these traitors didn't: the patience to wait for the right moment and allies who were willing to fight until the end. The web of injustice didn't stop there. Leonardo, a young businessman who was set to inherit the family business, saw his own uncle take everything from him after his father's death. Patricia, Tiago's manipulative sister, turned him into a guest in her own apartment. And Fernanda, who always thought Clara was her childhood friend, discovered that the girl was slowly stealing her life, taking over her social circle and even getting together with her ex-fiancé. Each one had their own pain, but they all had something in common: they trusted the wrong people and were destroyed because of it. But now, everything was about to change. With Anna leading the plan, the only thing left was to execute it. The goal wasn't just to teach a lesson. They wanted justice. They wanted to make each of the traitors pay the price for their boundless ambition. And this time, there would be no escape. Anna knew that confronting each of them directly would be a mistake. These people had manipulated, lied, and betrayed her without the slightest remorse. The only way to take them down was to use their own weapons against them. The group spent weeks gathering information, cross-referencing details, and creating a strategy. The plan would be executed in stages, each one targeting one of the traitors in a precise and devastating way. They started with Carla. With the help of Raphael and Lucas, Anna was able to access documents that proved that she had stolen their project. But that wasn't enough. They needed Carla to expose herself publicly. So they set a trap, a fake $1 million project that required the skills she supposedly had. Carla fell for it like a fish on a hook, accepting the proposal and bragging about it to everyone in the office. On the day of the presentation, when she was supposed to defend the idea, she was unmasked in front of the entire board of directors when they realized that she didn't even know what she was talking about. The shock on the executives' faces was enough for Carla to be immediately removed, while Anna finally saw her first victory come to fruition. But that was just the first domino to fall. With the group's morale high, they moved on to their next target, Sylvia, Lucas's stepmother. Using old documents and conversations that Lucas had managed to recover, they exposed the contradictions in the new will. But instead of going straight to court, they decided on something better: to infiltrate the story in the media. as a scandal of a woman trying to usurp her own stepchildren's inheritance. The social pressure was overwhelming. Sylvia, who loved to keep up appearances, saw her name tarnished, her credibility destroyed, and before she could react, the family's lawyers were already dismantling the fake will. In the end, Sylvia not only lost her fortune, but also had to answer legally for fraud. Another victory for the group. But they were far from finished. With Carla and Sylvia's downfall, the group gained even more confidence. But now, they needed to act more discreetly. Their next target was Felipe, Raphael's envious colleague who had incriminated him at the company. The problem was that Felipe was smart. He knew how to manipulate the narrative well and protect himself from any direct accusations. So, instead of confronting him head-on, Raphael decided to let him hang himself. He and Anna devised a plan to make Felipe believe that their scheme had worked. Raphael pretended to be defeated, unmotivated, and about to leave the company. Meanwhile, Lucas and Mariana managed to access accounting records that proved that Felipe had been embezzling money for months. When the day of the surprise audit arrived, secretly organized by Anna and Raphael, all the evidence was there, wide open. Felipe tried to explain himself, but the company had no choice but to fire him and open an internal lawsuit. Raphael, on the other hand, had his reputation restored and even received a promotion. The group began to notice a curious pattern. Most traders sabotaged themselves when they thought they were in control of the situation. That was exactly what happened to Juliana, Camila's former partner. After robbing the bakery they had opened together, Juliana was expanding the business, investing heavily in the new location. But what she didn't know was that Anna, Fernanda and Tiago had infiltrated her new suppliers and discovered that Juliana had made problematic contracts, taking on debts she couldn't pay. With a little push from the group, rumors began to circulate. Juliana, worried, tried to renegotiate contracts and, in the process, revealed how precarious the situation of the new bakery was. Suppliers began to back out, old customers found out about the betrayal against Camila and, in less than 3 months, Juliana's new store was closed. Camila, on the other hand, managed to rebuild her bakery with the loyal clientele that never abandoned her. While Juliana's downfall was unfolding, another battle was being waged inside Tiago's home. His sister, Patricia, was becoming increasingly abusive, turning his apartment into her own kingdom. But rather than engage in direct confrontation, Tiago decided to turn the tables. Following Anna's advice, he began to act as if he were accepting the situation, letting Patricia believe she was winning. But in the meantime, he quietly collected evidence, text messages in which she admitted she would never pay rent, recordings in which she said she would never leave, and even conversations with her parents in which she manipulated the situation to make herself look like the victim. When everything was ready, Tiago called a lawyer. Based on the evidence, he managed to obtain not only an eviction order, but also an order for Patricia to leave immediately. And the cherry on top? Tiago made sure the entire family knew the truth. With no allies to defend her, Patricia stormed out of the apartment, furious and humiliated. But the big blow was yet to come. The group knew that some traitors were still standing. Leonardo, who had lost the company to his own uncle, was ready to take back what was his. Using a similar plan to Raphael's, he pretended to be defeated and accepted a lower position in the company. Meanwhile, Renata and Mariana infiltrated the business elite, spreading rumors about how disorganized and financially risky Leonardo's uncle's management was. It wasn't long before investors began to doubt his ability. And when Leonardo finally revealed internal documents showing fraud and embezzlement within the company, confidence collapsed. Leonardo's uncle lost control of his shares and was forced to sell his shares at a ridiculous price. Guess who bought the majority of them? Exactly. Leonardo took over his company again, ensuring that his uncle would never again have any influence over its business. The group was beginning to understand that when the wrong people played dirty, the only way to beat them was to let them believe they were winning, right up until the exact moment to pull the rug out from under them. Now, there were only a few targets left, but each one had to be taken down in the right way. Daniel's case was more complicated. His former landlord, Mr. Almeida, had been pulling the same scam on several people. He would rent apartments that weren't his, pocket the money, and when he was caught, he would simply disappear. But Daniel didn't just want his money back, he wanted to expose Almeida so that he could never scam anyone again. With the help of Lucas and Rafael, Daniel managed to contact other victims and put together a large dossier of complaints. But they didn't stop there. They used an even bolder tactic. They pretended to be investors interested in buying properties from Almeida himself, luring him into a meeting with a foreign buyer. But instead of an investor, it was the police who showed up, with all the evidence in hand. Almeida was arrested that same day, and Daniel finally got his justice. The group was close to completing their mission, but there was still one last piece on the board. Clara. The woman who spent years infiltrating Fernanda's life, taking her space, her social circle, and even her ex-fiancé. Unlike the others, Clara didn't steal money or companies, she stole status, connections, and prestige. But Ana and Fernanda already knew her weak point. Clara was obsessed with status, with always being well-connected and being the center of attention. So, the strategy was simple: expose her in the cruelest way possible, with her own arrogance. Fernanda, with the help of Mariana and Renata, organized a charity event with all the city's elite, an environment where Clara couldn't resist showing off. But the invitation she received was carefully edited so that she would think she would be honored. On the big day, when Clara went on stage thinking she was going to give a speech, the screens in the background showed screenshots of her manipulative conversations, proof of how she destroyed friendships and used people. The audience was shocked. Clara tried to justify herself, but no one wanted to listen anymore. Her reputation was destroyed. Like the others, she fell because of her own arrogance. With Clara publicly humiliated, the group felt a final wave of relief. Each of the traitors had fallen, not out of impulsive revenge, but under the weight of the lies they had constructed. There was no need for dramatic confrontations or endless arguments. They could just let each one dig their own grave. Ana, who had started all this because of a stolen promotion, now saw something much bigger than her initial problem. In just a few months, they had taken down corrupt businessmen, false friends, con artists, and manipulators of all kinds. More than revenge, they had achieved justice. But above all, they had come together as a group that would never allow themselves to be deceived again. What began as a personal settling of scores became a mission for something much bigger. That night, everyone gathered for dinner. The mood was one of relief, but also of reflection. This should never have happened, Mariana said, looking around. But it did. And now, they've learned their lesson. Renata laughed. Really? People like that always try to come back. Lucas crossed his arms, thoughtful. And if they do, maybe it's our duty to make sure they never do. Ana looked at everyone there and realized that, even after everything, there were still many other people like them, who could be deceived, manipulated, betrayed. They had achieved justice for themselves. But what about the others? What if the group didn't need to disband? If they could continue helping those in need, just as they helped themselves? A silence hung over the table before Raphael finally smiled. Then let the next mission begin.